So once you've organized your thoughts, how are you going to make it happen? And that's where a lot of people fall down. In the book, we talk about a guy by the name of General Boyd who came up with something called Observe, Orient, Decide, Act. And it's basically how fighter pilots are now taught to basically engage in combat these days, is through OODA loops. Okay? And that's what we focused on in the book. And the reason is it's easy to understand OODA loops. It's easy to understand the concept that I have to be observing all the time and seeing what's happening. And then once I've observed, I've got to orient myself. Where am I in this picture of things? Now I've got to decide what I'm going to do, and then I take action on it. And what you always want to do is run through your OODA loop faster than the other guy does, and that's how you win. Okay? It's easy to teach OODA loops. What's a little bit more difficult is teaching the other forms of, and if you think about innovation, what you have to think about is what you're executing. In my earlier comment, that innovation is taking knowledge and turning it back into capital. So if you think about a process for executing on innovation, what you're really looking at is how do I create a process for executing on knowledge? How do I get knowledge shared throughout the organization? How do I get it adapted, acculturated into the organization? And how do I begin acting on that particular set of information? So there's two other models. And yes, I am working on a separate book now to be able to just discuss this one section because it's only one chapter in the current book. OODA, I've talked about. The second one is the SECA, or socialization, externalization, combination, and internalization model. And really, if you think about what that really is, it's actually another form of OODA, but there's more academic rigor applied to it. It was created by the Japan Institute of Science and Technology by a guy by the name of Nonaka. And the key there is understanding that innovation is a team sport. That if you are going to succeed in the future, you're going to succeed through cooperation and collaboration and the sharing of information. But to do that, you have to overcome the signal-to-noise ratio that generally you find in things like social media or even things like SharePoint, where people are dumping presentation libraries. I've got 367 different presentations sitting here. Which is the right one that I need to use for this particular thing? So the SICA model is actually designed to address that. And then there is the Kokkonen model, which is basically was developed in Finland but has been adopted by Stanford University, which is basically how do you organize knowledge in a creative and managerial framework. So I'm not going to talk about those in detail. And by the way, this whole presentation is really meant to give you guideposts. The presentation will be available to you. You'll be able to download it, do whatever you want to with it. It's basically to give you the ability to go look at these in more detail on your own at a later point in time.